A, being worth doing in the long haul, and because it is worth doing well, then it gives us this lens through which to see the activities we do so that we can prioritize the things that will make us the most money or get us closer to the goals we have. And so younger me had more energy than me does now. I make way more money than younger me did. And it's because I do fewer things and I do different things. How much credibility or weight should we give to other people's opinions on what we should do with our lives? In my opinion, very little. Unless the person has a vested interest in seeing you succeed, and the context to provide the advice, most of the times it's just worth ignoring because they're trying to live their own life and they're projecting their own beliefs and experiences on you.
In this video, entrepreneur and self-made millionaire Alex Harmozi talks about 14 life lessons he wished he knew when he was younger. So make sure you watch this video to the end so that you don't regret not knowing these lessons when you grow older.
The hardest respect to earn is one's own. What I realized, and this was something that was really hard for me, is that I had a pretty bad reputation at the very beginning of my college career and all of my high school career. And it was because I drank too much, I was irresponsible, I slept around a lot, and I wasn't representing the type of person that I wanted to be. And so I felt ashamed of the behaviors that I did, but I didn't change them. And so it was only through a conversation I had with my father where I said, how do I change my reputation? How do I get these people to stop saying this stuff? And I thought there was some like PR marketing angle that I could take, that I could control the narrative. And he said, why don't you stop being a piece of shit? And he said that in his own, in his own words. And I was like, that can't be it. I'll figure out a way. When parents talk to kids, they're listening, but they're not listening. That really stuck with me and I started thinking about it. And so I said like, well, if I wanted to be somebody who was respectable, what would I do? And so then I tried to start acting in that way to be someone whose respect, my own, I would earn. If you want to control what people think, control what they say. This is the third lesson I learned, and this is more of a business/marketing lesson. But if you want to talk about products and services, you have to equip people with the words to describe what you have. Because otherwise you're asking them to solve the problem of how to describe your business. And if right now you can't even figure out how you're going to describe your business and you own the darn thing, how do you expect them to do it in a half second when they're telling their friend? And so this is really about equipping people with simple language so they can communicate what you do. Most champions do not have something that you do not. They lack something that you have. It's a different thought process. Because if all of us have the exact same hours per day, it means that they're allocating their time differently. Many times, they eliminate things that you are still doing. They have sacrificed more. They have given up things that you have continued to have on your tree as branches that are distracting from growing up. Champions, when I look at the people who are further ahead of me, they're even more ruthless with their time. They even have lower tolerance for friends, family, people around them that are not at the bar that they hold themselves to. For me, going through college or when I was younger, I always thought it was about adding to your plate, saying yes to everything, saying yes to opportunity, say yes, say yes, say yes. When all I did was I just completely got distracted and spread super thin. What most champions have is singular focus, and they're willing to say no to everything else. Goodwill compounds faster than money. Like if you actually think about what goodwill is, it's that you have positive sentiment and you have a degree of influence over a person's behavior. That's what goodwill is. If one person has goodwill with you and then shares your stuff with somebody else and you create goodwill in that next person, you can double your goodwill or 10x your goodwill in a matter of 12 weeks. 10xing your money in a matter of 12 weeks is very, very unlikely. Goodwill, because it's based on audiences and humans, can compound significantly faster than money can. And when I realized that that goodwill could be translated into money, if I so desired at a future date, then I realized that rather than focusing on the money that I'm trying to make today, why don't I focus on the compounding vehicle that compounds at a much faster rate than money does, that compounds tax-free, by the way. Building the audience is tax-free, and then when you choose to have the conversion event, you can do that at your own choosing. But if you focus on the audience, you focus on the goodwill, that will grow significantly faster than any kind of monetary move. You're going to die. 2 weeks after you die, most people will have forgotten about you. And 6 months after you die, no one will talk about you. And if they're not caring enough then it certainly doesn't matter what they think about your life now. Because if that's the most significant event that's going to happen in your life, which is that you stop living, how much credibility or weight should we give to other people's opinions on what we should do with our lives? In my opinion, very little. Unless the person has a vested interest in seeing you succeed, and the context to provide the advice, most of the times it's just worth ignoring. Extraordinary accomplishments come from doing ordinary things for extraordinary periods of time. This is just me speaking about me, but when I was younger, my action showed that I was more impatient. I always was willing to sacrifice what I had today to get the quick buck. I was shifty like that because I just thought that was how it worked. I thought there was some shortcut I didn't know about. And I would see the guys on stages being like, this is what we do the basics, we do a lot of it. I was like, they're just trying to hold the secrets back. And I'm here to tell you that that is not true. Like, I wish I could go and shake my college self and be like, if you do one thing for a very long period of time, you will get very good at it and it will compound onto itself. And maybe I would listen to me. If future self showed up in my living room now, I would totally listen to him. But you know what I mean? And so I can't do that. So the next best thing I can do is try and shake you by the collar. The thing that makes the action extraordinary is the commitment to it, not the nature of the action itself. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. This is a really great saying. I shortcutted so much stuff when I was younger. I just wanted to like get it done, rather than doing it well. There's kind of two ways you can take the saying, which is why I like it so much, is that if it's worth doing well. Because many times I was doing things that were not worth doing. I didn't have the time to do things well because I was doing so many things that were not worth doing. The first criteria is, what problem are we solving? What am I hoping to accomplish? Is this worth doing at all? Because if it is worth doing, then I have to understand that to do it, right, to do it well, it's gonna take this much time. Now, given that, is it still worth doing? And if it passes that test of A, being worth doing in the long haul, and because it is worth doing well, then it gives us this lens through which to see the activities we do so that we can prioritize the things that will make us the most money or get us closer to the goals we have. And so younger me had more energy than me does now. I make way more money than younger me did. And it's because I do fewer things and I do different things than I did then. Humility. This is a big one because I want to be a different voice on this, because I have heard all over the internet recently people saying humility is stupid. If you looked up what the word means, you wouldn't want to be it. Because if you look it up on Google, it says thinking less of oneself. This is why looking and defining terms is important. Because if you look at Merriam-Webster, for example, it's lack of pride or arrogance. I don't think people would say you wouldn't want that. It's like, no, I think people are okay not being prideful or arrogant. I think that's okay. But even more so, and the definition that I have taken on is actually the exact opposite of that, which is it is not decreasing your regard for self, but increasing your regard for others. That's from Clayton Christensen, who was a Harvard professor, goat of a human. I thought that posturing when I was younger was the thing that would get people to like me. But what I realized later was that you gain status by giving more to the group than you get. This is especially true for guys. It's probably true for girls, but I can't speak to that. If you want to gain status, the way you do it is by sacrificing more for the group than everyone else does. If you want to gain status in a company, you give more to the company than anyone else does, more than the company gives you back. Because what do? They reward that behavior. The group rewards the person who gives to the group. Failure leads to learning, learning leads to success, success leads to complacency, complacency leads to failure. And so a lot of times I remember used to thinking that like there was a destination, but I think the actual entrepreneurial cycle, it's not a destination, it's not linear, it's cyclical. And so that's why I talk about entrepreneurship in terms of seasons, because there are cycles where you learn a lot, right? And I used to say this a lot where I'd say, either the business is growing or I am. Either I have learned lessons and I am applying those lessons to the business and the business is growing, or the business is not growing and has problems, and now I am the one receiving the lessons from the business, and until I learn the lesson that I'm supposed to learn, the business will cease to grow. Until I have learned this lesson, until I beat this boss at this level. And the difference between video games and real life is that sometimes in order to beat that boss, you're not doing it in 10 minutes, it might take you 10 years. Recognizing that you are not above the cycle, but that cycle is inevitable because you have failure, learning, success, complacency. The goal is if you can identify that, how quickly can you get back to learning success, and try and skip the complacency step altogether. It still happens to a degree. When I can start feeling the feelings and it's rearing its head, I'm aware of it, and then it allows me to speed through it faster. And to the same degree, I stop labeling things as good or bad, because if I'm failing, it means I'm about to go through learning. And I see learning as good. And on the flip side, if I'm succeeding, succeeding is good. And so either way, they lead to my success. And framing it that way took a lot of the judgment and the label and the depression around not achievement away from me. And also, when things are good, it allowed me to not be so high on my supply, because I knew that whenever things were good, everything is good is followed by something that is not as good. I would pay any amount of money to make obvious truths real for me. There is a reality that no one can see right now, true reality. And no one can see it because we are shaped by the many things that we've been told throughout our lives, and many of those things were not true. Much of the path of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is shedding these false truths so that you can see the world more clearly. If you see these business people who are super far ahead and all of a sudden it's like they can lose it and then they can get it all back again and things seem so seamless for them, it's because they have a more accurate view of reality than you do.
Thanks for watching this video till the end. If you are still with us, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when a new video comes out.